Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show. And as always, I'm joined by my good man, Kyle.
Hey,
Yeah. Glad to have you back once again, my friend.
glad to be here again.
Yeah, I love your new mic too. It's great.
Finally, good quality on it.
Oh, yeah. And in case you're not unaware, everyone, tonight's discussion is on the very well-rounded 2015 album by Panic at the Disco, Death of a Bachelor. So we're going to do a full-fledged discussion on that tonight and sit back and enjoy. So let's get into well, you want to get into the track listing really quick, or what do you want to start with?
We could start. Let's start with just general where they were at with the album, and then we'll get into the track
Okay.
list later.
Cool. Let me share my screen, because I got some stuff pulled up for you. Sorry about that. Ooh. Here we go. Cool. So, Death of Bachelor, Kyle. I mean, you're full disclosure. You were a Panic at the Disco Get Go fan from the early days. I because this was the album that got me into them. Truthfully, I had no idea who they were until this album was, which is unusual. I get it, but tell me, what were your initial impressions? What were they coming from? What was going through your head when this album came out?
So, well, first I want to say that that's interesting to me that this album was your introduction to them.
Yeah.
Because it had hits on it. Like, don't get me wrong, it had big hits on it. But usually when I hear people talk about Panic at the Disco, they were either here already, like me, from the early days when the first album came out, or they came in with the album that followed this with High Hopes being such a hit. So actually High Hopes ending being the biggest song of their career. So it's interesting to me when I hear people getting into the different points. But yeah, for me, I was a fan, back when I Write Sins, Not Tragedies came out. Like many people, that song really got me into them. And then I went out, got the album, and man, that album was so good. It was such it's now like a pop punk classic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from there, they went through so many different sounds throughout their history. I mean, talk about a band that never does the same album twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like the disco. I mean, you have the pop punk classic. Then you have them going into Pretty Odd, which, essentially just a very folk influenced album with also some like Beatles influence in there too. Great album. And then from there, you just have them going back to the pop punk a little bit on the following album, Vices and Virtues. And, it was good. Lost a little bit of traction there. And then, so over the years, they did kind of go down in popularity, not in nothing significant, I would say, but there's definitely some people that fell off. And then what's the album called? Oh my God, Too Weird to Live, something like that.
Too weird to live, too weird to die.
Too Weird to Die, yeah. As you could tell by my butchering of the album title, I'm not the biggest fan of that album. I got that album the day it came out, very excited for it, and I was pretty hugely let down. I mean, again, impressive that they can pull off the sound that they were going for. It was just not for me. So when this album came out, this was such a return to form in a way, not to their original sound, I'll say, but to just making great quality music. So for me, this album, and I have so many great memories with this album that I didn't even realize how long ago this came out until, started listening to it again for this. And man, it does not feel like that long ago. And now I feel even older.
I testament to that. I agree.
I remember just when this came out around winter time, actually around the time we're at now, I think a couple weeks before in the year, but I had so many good nights, just like winter nights, driving at night with this album going on, just up and down the highway. It's so good. Perfect album for that.
I mean, I got it just on the release date alone. It was January 31st or January, I think 30th of 2016, which I was, again, I was looking, I was like, wait, it's coming up, but the anniversary is coming up later this month. I was like, what? And you're right, it doesn't feel that old. I mean, it's just, I mean, in 2016 was a long time ago for some people, but it's hard to believe that this album is so old already. It's crazy. So
I know it's insane. I didn't even think about it. Even the album that followed this,
yeah,
a
2018.
few years old now. I mean, we're coming up on 4 years.
With Pray for the Wicked. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but those are all your overall like initial thoughts, impressions, and whatnot as well.
Yeah, I mean, my overall impressions is this is full disclosure my favorite Panic at the Disco album.
Yes, I second that.
I
By the
think
way,
this is really when Brendan hit his stride as a songwriter. I think that this has their best songwriting on it, and I think that even includes Pray for the Wicked. This album, the songwriting quality is so good. Like the song structure, everything about it. There's not a bad song on this album. And this is really the album before this was his first real album as like the solo guy in Panic at the Disco.
yeah.
And so I think, he had to figure that out. And this album, he figured it out and he perfected on this. And I'm going to be honest, I would be fine if he remains the only one that has creative input. I don't need the other guys after hearing this album.
I second that, truthfully.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to disrespect the other members because they were all great. They all contributed to the early work. But I mean, if this is the quality of music that we get with just Brendan's input, then I'm fine with it. Continue on, Brendan.
Yes, Brendan, if you're out there listening to us, please release another album soon. We were impatiently waiting for the next Panic album. Just saying.
I'm still waiting on the metal version of the calendar to come out that he played on Twitch that time. That,
for those you don't know, Brendan Urie of Panic at the Disco does a Twitch stream, and he released the calendar metal version, and he released like his own solo metal like track. Dude, it was so good.
It was so good, and we just have such like a bad quality version of it to work with.
I know it's so hard to like interpret it, but that was like what 2019 when he did that stream on Twitch. So
that was pre-COVID. So yeah, it's probably about 2019.
Yeah, I hope they're not done for. I mean, I doubt he's done, but like, let's face it, we're all craving for that next album of his. So, but truth be told, my impressions of like my initial thoughts, like I said from the top of the hour, this was the album that got me. At least I had never heard of them. Honestly, until this album came out, I'm like, oh, this is band Panic at the Disco. This is their 5th album too. What? And my initial thought process, because what got me into it was a friend of mine, someone I was friends with in high school. True story. She was really a big fan of like their first album, and a couple of hits off like Pretty Odd, and the next couple albums as well. But truth be told, I was like, all right, let me give this album a shot. And for some reason, when I was just getting into them as the singles for this album were coming out. So like I heard like a couple, like Hallelujah hit a couple of, I heard Hallelujah. Then I heard the title track. We'll get to it in a second. Death of a Bachelor. I was like, this is very something out of left field for me. I'm like, this is crazy. I never would have thought I would have enjoyed like contemporary, because my big thing at the time was like listening to like classic rock artists, or like I was just getting into some alternative rock artists and whatnot, and pop rock and whatnot. But this album was my first exposure to them, and my oh my, what an album to get into! Like, and we'll get into the track listing in a second, but like I said, this album was like just such a. I was like, man, I want to like see these guys live too, and this guy's got such a wide. Listen, Kyle, truth be told, my grandfather got into them with this album,
and I could see that with the way this album was. I'm not too surprised by that.
Like, he loves the song "Death of a Bachelor" because it sounds like Frank Sinatra. It sounds like a swing song,
Yeah, he has the crooning vocals on it, and I hope in the future we see a lot more of that from him.
Yeah,
it was something I thought was missing from Pray for the Wicked.
Yeah, I agree. I gotta say too, another thing on just on the top of the hour as well with this topic, he I know that Brendan went on when this album first came out. He said, "Well, like I would love to do a jazz record. I'd love to do like a metal record. I'd love to diversify my different sounds of it as an artist. Now I want because I have full creative freedom. Why not? That'd be something. But
I will take anything he wants to give me musically. He's proven that he can do any genre, so far and do it well.
yeah,
I mean, we had, like I said, the pop punk albums. We had essentially folk and like 60s influenced album. We have whatever Too Weird to Live and whatever was that a weird experiment, and a lot of like
a pop album, yeah,
techie stuff in there. Not really my thing. And then we had this album, which to me is the perfect combination of all of their sounds and building on it. This is to me what Panic at the Disco should be, but they kind of strayed away from it. With Pray for the Wicked, they went a more pop route, which is still good. It's still a good album. But I'm hoping that, like you said, I'm hoping he does like dive into other genres in the future.
I mean, if that metal version of the calendar and that metal song that we heard on Twitch was one thing, then oh my god! But you can find the videos of this one, like someone took 15 minutes of his 2-hour Twitch stream and put it on YouTube of that one segment of the metal song. I'm like, bruh, you would kill with that. Like it's mind-boggling.
Even if you wanted to do just an album of different versions of already existing songs, that'd be so much fun. I'd be down for it.
I would love that too. I mean, I'm a big fan of him as like a vocalist as well. He's proven he can do range. So
this, and talking about him as a vocalist, this album I think is the one that really set him apart from the crowd as a vocalist. Like everyone knew, Brendan Urie, he's a good vocalist, but this album came out and it was like, oh, he's a really good vocalist. Like he is top notch, another level vocalist.
Yeah, no, I second that, man. He was like and for those of you who are listening or watching, whatever, if you have not heard him sing at all, this is a great start to his his pop punk and Pretty Odd and like all the prior albums, and including Pray for the Wicked. This really cemented him as a fantastic vocalist. Oh my god, it's crazy. So
yeah. I mean, even it was either this tour or the following one where they started doing Bohemian Rhapsody.
It was this tour.
It was this tour.
Because you haven't seen them yet, right?
I have not.
So, okay.
Man, it takes a lot of guts for someone to get up on stage and cover Bohemian Rhapsody.
In full, everything.
In full, everything included. Not just we're going to play the verses and then let the crowd sing the rest. No. He sings it near flawlessly.
Yeah, it's
on a consistent basis, and it's incredibly impressive.
It really is. He loves Queen as well. He's a big Queen fan, and he loves that song. But I got to tell you, when I saw them, just on a side note with them touring, I saw them on the Pray for the Wicked tour at the Garden. And I got to tell you, full disclosure, it was my first screaming girl concert in general. Like the girls were like screaming at him. And I remember there's so many memorable things about that show, truthfully. But one of the two things that stand out to me, one was the encore was, the set list was the same throughout the whole tour. It wasn't too much of a difference. But I will say, though, they did do two covers. They did Bohemian Rhapsody, and they did Girls Just Want to Have Fun as well by Cyndi Lauper.
I forgot that they did that.
Yeah, they did that. And another thing they did on that tour was they did a solo piano, like flying over the audience. I remember that. But also, I got to tell you, the two things that stood out to me that Brendan Urie did on stage was, and this is why he's a true performer. You have to see him. He's one of the many greats that are either currently doing it great or going to do incredibly well in the next 10 years. But remember, the encore, he was shirtless and he was ripped, and all the girls were screaming at that. That's the first thing. The second thing was, and I remember this as clear as day, everyone freaked out. He was singing, I think it was Ready to Go Out of My Mind, and he dabbed on stage.
Oh, God.
And just hear me out for a second. He dabbed on stage, and the place went like ballistically. And this is in 2019. He's screaming his head out, and I was like, "Oh my God, he dabbed!" I was like, "Oh my God." What a diverse crowd too. I mean, there's a lot of girls, don't get me wrong, but like it was like nice to see other people like of different like age groups as well too, which was great.
Yeah, and
So
that's something that we touched on a few weeks ago with Green Day.
yeah,
I would say Panic the Disco is the same way, where it's pretty incredible. Every time they put an album out, they get a new group of fans.
oh
Like,
yeah,
I mean, their fans, they don't they don't run the gamut as much as, in terms of age, as much as Green Day. I mean, they haven't been around as long.
right.
But I mean, you have people that were there from the first album that are still showing up,
Mhm.
and you have people that are found out about them a couple months ago that are going to show up. It's pretty astounding, and this has happened throughout their career.
Yeah, he's
Everyone that's heard Panic at the Disco, I haven't met a single person that doesn't like something that they've put out, or even if they're not a fan of them, they still appreciate the work that they've put out.
yes, absolutely. So that's just, I mean, I'm sure we can go on for hours just talking about them as a band and
Yeah.
Brendan's vocals and last night, but let's delve into the actual track listing, some of the behind the scenes stuff of this record. Now, if we, full disclosure, this is the Wikipedia page for those you're wondering. But oh no, so it came out on January 15th, 2016. My mistake.
I was right.
You're right. That's my bad. Man, it was their first number one album too. First debut at number one on the Billboard 200, which I thought was great. What a big win.
And again, it shows right here, certified double platinum for an album that comes out from a, rock band. I know they're not, particularly much rock anymore, but for a rock band, pop rock, pop punk band to put out an album that goes double platinum in, the mid to late 2010s, especially in today's day and age of streaming, it's really impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You don't see albums go platinum that much anymore.
Which is unfortunate, but yeah.
Yeah. And then that's even, to say pop albums too. So it's a very impressive feat when one does.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely whenever seeing a platinum album in general, it's great. But when it happens to something like this too, which is, I don't know how big you are on the Grammys, but it was nominated for Rock Album of the Year too.
And very well deserving.
Yeah, it didn't win, but hey, so
what did win? I wonder.
Let's see. Let's fact check really quick. Hold on, because it was right during the Grammy Awards for Best Rock Album in 2017. I want to just see this for 1 second.
I'm trying to think what rock albums came out in 2017.
Okay, it was Cage the Elephant, Tell Me I'm Pretty.
Oh no. And no disrespect to Cage the Elephant, but Death of a Bachelor and California were nominated for that. Even Weezer, which I will say that Weezer album was one of their better ones.
Yeah.
Didn't deserve to win. Glad it was nominated. But man, Cage the Elephant had no business beating either of those albums.
I second that. Let's just be real.
Again, no disrespect to them. They're great musicians, but man, Death of a Bachelor and California. This is why I don't watch the Grammys, man.
Yes, we both agree with that.
I'm looking down just the list right now, just to get a sidetrack real quick. I'm looking down the list right now of just these years, and I'm looking at what was nominated versus what won, and I'm like, how? Given 2021, I haven't heard a single one of these. But up until that, it's astounding. Although Fall Out Boy's Mania definitely didn't even deserve to be nominated, but story for another day.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother thing for another time.
Yeah.
But
God,
yeah,
that's wild. This album, well, I think California probably should have won, but this album definitely deserves to be nominated.
Hell yeah, man! It's like it's one of I think it's their best album by far,
hands down.
So, but yeah, like it's and also this was the last album with their official lineup as well before it became like a solo project thing. We got to talk about that too.
Yeah.
What's his name? Dallin Weeks was their bassist, and then he left after the tour, right?
I believe so. And I believe now he's in another project. I don't know how, but They Found Me, I believe he's in now.
Yeah, then that's the
They're
group because
doing
it's
pretty well.
actually that group is actually a Panic at the Disco member like spin-off thing.
Yeah,
I
as
found out.
well as one of the guys that used to be in the band Falling in Reverse, Ryan Seaman. He's in that as well. And yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, I mean, I like
They're
them. They're
interesting.
cool.
I like their whole shtick. That's like, oh, it's secret tapes that were like lost from a band from like the '80s or whatever it is. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I hear them on Alt Nation on XM too, but they're cool.
Yeah.
But Panic, Death of a
Mhm.
Bachelor, man. And look at the first off, just look at the genres. For those of you who are listening, you won't be able to see this, but there's genres for this one album were pop rock, jazz, alt rock, power pop, and some R&B in there. I mean, what a diverse like style too for them too.
Yeah. I mean, this album, I will say, is probably the most experimental that they've gotten on a single album.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would probably say Pretty Odd was probably their most experimental,
Oh yeah,
but that
for
whole
sure.
album sounded the same. In terms of trying different sounds on one album, it's got to be this one. And they pulled it off every single second.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to the track listing in a second, but yeah, like this, like they're from the opening because I was listening to it before I came back today. I was at a doctor's appointment. I was listening to it on the way back. I'm like, man, this is some great songs. Like Victorious opens up the album. Fantastic opening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
What probably their best album opener.
yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
hands down.
Victorious is such a good song. It no, that was Hallelujah. Hallelujah used to be my alarm on my phone in college for so long, to the point where for a while I couldn't listen to the song anymore because it would remind me of waking up for class.
That's funny.
But
That's classic.
Victorious is such a good kickoff to the album and such a fun, upbeat song.
Yeah,
And I believe that's the music video, the stereotypical boxing music video, if I'm
I
not
think so.
mistaken.
I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah.
every band needs at least one. But yeah, I mean, even look at the writers on it. You got Rivers Cuomo from Weezer writing on it.
Yeah.
Stacked writing credits.
Yeah. This is the first one where they had different like writers involved, but I mean, hey, it worked out in their favor, his favor. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll never fault people for having multiple writers if it comes out good.
I second that. So that's Victorious. Let's go to Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time. A bop. A bop.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite.
The riff, though, I don't know if you knew this. The riff was stolen stolen from Record Leonard
Sampled.
from Rock Lobster from the
Yeah.
B-52s.
Yep, I loved that when I first heard it. I was like, oh, that's so fun. But yeah, the lyrics on this, again, there's something about this album that just this song in particular, but back when I was in college and we would have like, we kind of like party a little bit in like the dorms. This song this album I would always put on the background, and it always fits so well. Just like such a fun, like hanging out at night with your friends, having a good time album. And
Oh, yeah.
specifically this song, oh man, it's so good.
I second that notion. 100 like that. That's what is it? It's 3 minutes 33 seconds. It's so it truly encapsulates the moment, and it makes you feel like, oh my god, this is like I really am threatened with a good time, like for lack of a better words. I mean,
In the lyrics,
right.
he does a really good job lyrically, like painting a picture. Like it's a very vivid song lyrically.
Oh yeah,
And I
totally.
think it works really well.
Yeah. You're right. Actually, I forget how good his lyrics were on this record too. I forget how
Yeah.
good they were. Hallelujah. I don't know if you knew this because whenever Spotify should get on it and put the text back on, like on if you're listening to them on like a TV or whatever, they have like the background lyrics, like behind the lyrics type of thing.
Yeah.
This intro to Hallelujah was sampled, I found out, and it was actually written by the band Chicago. Did you know this?
I did not.
Okay, so the horn intro that we all know from Hallelujah was sampled from a song from a 1968, 9. I forget how old that is, but the song by questions 67 and 68 by Chicago. If you listen to that song, The opening of that song, the opening like 20 seconds is the opening of Hallelujah. Full disclosure. I don't know if you knew that, but it's pretty cool.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So I mean, I don't know if anyone's a big Chicago. I mean, I like Chicago quite a bit, but that's why it says Robert Lamb is one of the writing credits.
Yeah.
He's one of the members of Chicago. So it's just I don't know if you ever knew that because like I recognized it because I know Chicago, but at the same time, like wait, they took that from Chicago. What's going on? But it was a good move though.
Yeah, it works great.
Yeah. I gotta tell you the truth. Emperor's New Clothes scared the crap out of me on the way back there because I haven't listened to it in a long time. It's like finders, keepers, losers, weepers. I'm like, what? But ultimately it's him taking over the band because he is the band. So
yeah. I mean, that song, it's pretty middle of the road for the album for me. It's a great song.
yeah.
The music video is super cool.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that this song for whatever reason has always been just a middle of the road one for the album for me. Not again, this is an album made up of all just 11 incredible songs. So saying that one of them is middle of the road is still a great compliment. Like,
oh yeah, no, ain't that the truth? I mean,
I think to me some of the sampling on this song, like just some of the effects that were thrown in, is a little weird, and I know that's what they were going for, but sometimes I listen to it, it throws me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, like it kind of was a little scary for lack of a better word, truthfully.
Yeah, it's very I guess like not exactly like Nightmare Before Christmas type like vibe going on.
Yeah, no, yeah. There are some things like this. I was like, when this first song came out, because I listened to it from start to finish before I got home.
Yep, so did I.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, what? And you're right. It is a little like strange of a track, but it's still good.
It has something just like some effects and choices in it that are just kind of jarring in context of the album because it's so different than everything else. Again, not a bad thing.
No, of course. But yeah. Now let's get to what my grandfather still says. Alexa, play "Death of a Bachelor" by Panic at the Disco. Playing "Death of a Bachelor" by Panic at the Disco now on Amazon Music. Full disclosure, we are not sponsored by them at all. But "Death of a Bachelor," what a song! What a song!
Oh yeah, I remember when I first heard this song.
Yeah,
I was blown away because, again, like I said earlier, always known he was a great singer. When I heard this, I was like, oh, so he can pull off some like old school like Frank Sinatra stuff now, huh?
Yeah.
And then the way he can go from like just the crooning and then he'll just go into like a falsetto in the middle of it. The amount of vocal control and the amount of just pure vocal talent that he showcased on that song that could have been just a standalone single, and I still would have just listened to it over and over again. It's so good, and I hope we see more like this.
I second that because I mean, going to pray for the wicked for 1 second. There was some songs on there not quite as similar, but they were like more pop produced in a sense. But I mean, this is like, if you were to say what's Panic at the Disco's signature song, I feel like people would contend this might be one of them. Honestly,
I would put this as one of them.
Yeah.
If someone asked like give me 3 Panic at the Disco songs to get me into them, I'd probably give them "I Write Sins Not Tragedies" because I mean you have to.
Yeah.
"Death of a Bachelor," and honestly, probably "This Is Gospel."
Okay.
Specifically, the acoustic version.
Oh my God.
Kills it, and that was really to me the precursor to "Death of a Bachelor."
Yes.
Like that is probably the closest they got to this sound before this album. And this, I was so glad to see it again here. And man, this song is honestly, I think, one of the best vocal feats of any male singer, at least, of the past probably 10 years.
You and me both. We're on the same page with that. That's absolutely true. Crazy equals genius. Full disclosure, really quick. When I first read the title of the song, I'm like, what the hell is he thinking? Crazy equals with the equal sign. But then I listened to it. And as a Beach Boys fan, I'm like, what? He's talking about how the creativity process. I'm like, this guy's a freaking lyrical genius.
Yeah. And, and he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Go listen to most songwriters out there, especially, back in the day, not so much now with pop radio. It's, a lot of manufactured stuff. But any like songwriter, they're pretty crazy people. There's a reason that their music is so good. And this song, I love that the song itself sounds crazy too. Like everything about the song sounds wild. Like
the horns, the drums.
Yeah. There's like the jazzy vibe.
Yeah. Like almost like a swing feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But like, and for those you're wondering why we said the Beach Boys, because in the song it says because you feel like Mike Love, but you want to be Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson, as you know, or may not know, was the genius of the Beach Boys, and Mike Love was just like, let's stick to the formula kind of thing and make hit songs. But Brian was obviously the genius. There's documentaries of that on YouTube. You can find that anywhere else. But like,
and then there was true. Then they had like the biopic 2 years ago, Beach Boys biopic. That very good. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. It wasn't Love and Mercy, right?
No. I forget what it was, but I haven't seen it in years. I gotta go back and rewatch it.
Yeah. And just on a full disclosure, if anyone wants to like understand Beach Boys material more, there's a YouTuber by the name of Jeffrey Stillwell. He's really got a big Beach Boys freak, but he'll talk about stuff like that too. If you want to check him out too. Ready? You ready?
Oh yeah, let's go into it.
LA devotee. Oh my! I'll let you go first.
What?
I'm gonna let you go first. LA devotee. Oh my God.
AKA my favorite Panic at the Disco song.
No doubt.
Oh yeah, wow. This song I don't know how to describe it in a way that does it justice. It is probably, in my opinion, the most fun song that they have. Like I definitely have the best time listening to this one. And again, he paints a great picture with the lyrics, with the slight exception to the misheard lyric in the chorus about, the sweaty balls on the desert sky, man.
Yeah.
He says swimming pools. To this day, I cannot make myself hear that, nor can anyone else that I know. So I don't believe that's what he's saying.
Yeah, the lyrics might say that, but
I refuse to believe that's what he said. It takes my ear so much straining to hear that.
Yeah, like that's, but it's so good. But the drum, oh my God.
When I was listening to the album the very first time, actually, like when I first got it, like all the way through.
Yeah.
When I went through it, I texted my friend afterwards because we both got it. I was like, "Oh, did you finish the album?" He was like, "No." I was like, "Skip right now to LA Devotee." I was like, "Go back to the rest of it later, but go to this song right now." And he messaged me back. He's like, "Dude, that song is sick." I was like, "Yeah, I know." I was like, "This is what I've been waiting for them." And I got it. And it's awesome.
It goes over live really well too. Just I know you haven't seen it, but it goes over really well.
I can imagine. Again, this song, it's fun. And this is what bands I feel like miss a lot of the times. And it's what I love about this album a lot. Is so many people, especially recently in recent years, I'd say the past almost 10 years now, especially pop radio, no one has fun anymore. Go turn on the pop radio right now. It's all mid-tempo, minimalistic songs that are all sad. This album, they're like, you know what? We're just going to have mostly fun songs. And it went over so well. This song reminds me of, not to the extent and completely different sound. But, back in the 80s, like the LA glam scene, back when everyone was like, all the rock bands were partying and stuff. That is the vibes that this song gives me, and it's what I've been missing from music for quite a while. and again, completely different sound than that music. But for something to like capture that spirit again, I loved it. Can't get enough of it.
It's a fantastic song. And like I said, we said this from the get-go. If you've not heard this album or this song, just start with LA Devotee and then go from there. It's so good.
Yeah. Start with Death of a Bachelor, then go to LA Devotee, and then just listen to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I gotta tell you, for some reason, this next song, Golden Days, I put LA Devotee and Golden Days back to back anyways. But I put Golden Days up, like if I would have like put it in like a playlist or shuffle or whatever, I would go Golden Days first into LA Devotee to kind of like not redeem myself because I still love the track, but that's
okay.
me.
So Golden Days for me, it's definitely one of the weaker songs of the album.
Yeah.
But I think that has to do with it kind of sounds all over the place at a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of points where I feel like all the instruments get kind of drowned out in each other, like specifically during the chorus. But it makes me feel really nostalgic. It makes me and that's what he's trying to do, and it works. And I think that's what really shows a great songwriter is when they do exactly what they set out to do. And he did it perfectly with this song. It has the nostalgic vibe there that makes you be like, man, I do really miss those golden days. And every time I hear it, I had it happen today. I was listening to it, I was like, man, because even at the time when it came out, I was like, yeah, I miss those golden days. And at the time, those golden days was like years ago. For that would have been high school. And now I'm listening to it again today. I'm like, wait a minute, this album came out like over 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking of those golden days. I'm like, I'm thinking about back to college, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Time flies, man.
It's crazy, and this song really makes you think about it. And the lyrics are great. I just wish that the music was a little more cohesive in itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now I gotta tell you the truth. The last 3 songs, I would say they're definitely not up to par with the first like 7, and that's no slur to the album. But I will say the Good, the Bad, and the Dirty, I do have fun with it though. It's still fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'll get to have some memories in Impossible here in a second. But what's your take on the Good, the Bad, and the Dirty?
Good, the Bad, and the Dirty. I remember the day the album came out. Actually, before that, yeah, I believe the album had leaked. Back when albums used to leak pretty often, and it was a big thing. And some like boards I was on, whatever it was, they were like, "Oh, this song sounds like the most like classic Panic at the Disco. This is the one to hear." So I got like super excited to hear this one on first listen. And I listened to it, and I said to myself, I guess it sounds like classic Panic at the Disco, but I was like, it's not as good as the other stuff. I probably put this as my second least favorite on the album.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's it's a fun one, but I don't know, doesn't compare to the other ones for me.
No, I would say it's definitely, to be fair, I mean, like if you were to, if I were to, because I listened to this album before we started this show tonight, and I got to tell you, the first 8 songs to me are great, and I'm putting Golden Days in there too because I like it overall. But once you get to the Good, the Bad, and the Dirty, and I still like it, but it's definitely not one of my. I wouldn't like listen to it over and over again, like the way I would with LA Devotee or Empress or Hallelujah or whatnot as well.
It's just kind of boring, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
Vocally, I like what he's doing. He sounds like the vocals on it are great. Just musically, it just doesn't really do much for me. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's it's still good for what it is. That's
yeah.
House of Memories. Your take on that?
Least favorite on the album.
Okay.
Least favorite. It's okay. It's a good song. It's well written. It just kind of bores me, especially coming right after Good, the Bad, and the Dirty.
Right.
Which is already kind of boring. And again, I'm saying all of this with love for the album because I don't think there's a single bad song on the album. I think that all 11 of these songs are actually great sons.
I
But
agree.
at the end of the day, you got to pick which one's your least favorite, and that's just where this one fits for me.
Yeah, I have some memories. I mean, I'm listening to it again for the first time in a while, like because the album starts off with such like a hard hitting, like not hard hitting, but like just there's the perfect order and whatnot, and then the last 3 or 4, you're like, whatever. But overall, the other songs hold these up as well. So this is still a great album in general. And that's where I'm at with it. I still like the track, personally. But Impossible Year, man, he has stuck to his record of ending albums on such like a sad note. But his vocals on it were killer. But
yes, rivals Death of a Bachelor. I
yeah,
love Impossible Year.
yeah,
To me, this album, the way it's laid out, and I'm curious to see what you think. To me, this album, it starts off like a fun, it's like upbeat, like partying and all that fun stuff. And then you get about halfway through, a little more than halfway, it's probably about around Golden Days. And then it's kind of like like looking back on it, and then like the come down from the partying and like the reflecting. And I like that a lot. It reminds me of what Green Day tried to do with the trilogy, but done much better in the context of one album instead of 3 separate albums.
I agree with that.
And yeah, Impossible Year, it's the perfect way to end this. I couldn't picture him ending it any better than that.
Yeah.
And again, the vocals on it are so impressive. It again need more of this.
It's funny because I mentioned this a little when we were talking about Death of a Bachelor, the song. I let my grandfather listen to Impossible Year because he's like, oh, when are you going? He always, because as he go to a ton of concerts, like, hey, when is Brendan Urie touring? When is he touring? I'm like, all right, listen. And he's like, and then he'll cut me off and say, Alexa, play Death of a Bachelor, right? And it's just pretty funny. But but I forget I played him Impossible Year, and he's like, this guy is great. And mind you, he's like a 75-year-old man at the time. He's like 74 or 75-year-old man saying, oh my God, this album, like it's like this guy's Brendan Urie, what great vocals. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the song gets overshadowed a lot by Death of a Bachelor just because Death of a Bachelor was a single. But this album, this song, I think even shows off his voice in some ways better, shows off more range because the way, he starts like the same way as Death of a Bachelor. It's, the slow crooning. And then by the end of it, man, he's just belting it out there. He's just letting it all out. And it sounds great every step of the way.
I agree with that absolutely. He like the fact that this, I mean, it's like no, I wouldn't say it's a sad song, but it's kind of a lower like, all right, we're ending it on this note type of thing. But
yeah, it's like a melancholy, like looking back kind of song.
Yeah, but I mean, I personally, I cannot emphasize his vocals are fantastic on that one track. I would agree with you. I would say that it definitely rivals Death of a Bachelor's vocals a lot. So it's just
and I think that the closest we got to those kind of vocals again on Pray for the Wicked, I think, was Dying in LA was really the only.
Yeah,
I think it's the only slow song in general on there, and even that I don't think. I haven't heard that song in quite a while now, but I don't even think that song had like the crooning vocals in it. I think it's just a straight up ballad.
Mm-hmm. It was about. I remember he played it when I saw him on the Pray for the Wicked tour. And he played it with, and the string, mind you, I mean, people forget too that he's really good at orchestrating as well. So because the first song they played at the show was I'm not gonna say it because of kids and that whatnot, but a Silver Lining was the first song at the show, right? And full disclosure, on stage, I remember the moment the show started, like, what the hell? There's strings and horns on stage. This is great. Like I forget that.
Their performances, they're big performances.
Yeah. You have to see them. You have to see them.
I know. Did you see them was that the tour they did with Weezer?
No, that was the Death of a Bachelor tour. I saw them on the tour, yeah. I saw them on the Pray for the Wicked tour, which was for the High Hopes tour and whatnot.
Gotcha.
Which they still did great. You know, the seats were not the best. I sat like the nosebleed seats, but I still could see like the stage fine and whatnot. I didn't really take any video, but and also one thing, actually, I don't know if I want to spoil it, but like, I'm gonna say it. During Death of a Bachelor, he comes out into the audience and starts shaking people's hands while he's singing, and because he goes to a B stage, and then he goes on the piano there. But during the song, he's like, "Oh, how are you?" Like mid song, and the girl's like, "What?" Really brilliant, but a true entertainer, true class.
Yeah, he seems like a genuinely nice guy too.
Oh, totally. Yeah, he's so like down to earth. So, if we're gonna wrap it up, like, what's your like initial like overall feelings and takeaways from Death of a Bachelor?
I think that for me, I think this album I wish had more of an impact. You know, it did very well. It did great, but I think it came at a weird time in the music industry. Around 2016, 2015 or so is kind of when we started seeing this change on radio and pop music away from the upbeat, fun songs, even, you know, pop radio, everything included, to these more boring, melancholy, like minimalistic songs.
Yeah.
So I do think that overall it may not have the same lasting legacy as, you know, I Write Sins Not Tragedies still has today, just because of the time it came out. Like I Write Sins Not Tragedies came out at that perfect time where that style of music was booming, and they capitalized on that, and it's still relevant today, you know, almost going to be in a few years, almost 20 years later.
That's frightening, but yes.
That's very frightening to think about. But yeah, I mean, you know, back in those times you had like Green Day at their peak with American Idiot. You had like your Blink-182 still huge, and you know, all that. When this album came out, it was kind of around that weird time for music, but also I think that the album after this, just because of High Hopes, Pray for the Wicked, just because of High Hopes, I think is going to be the one that gets remembered more than Death of a Bachelor, because the one massive song on it. And Hey Look Ma, I Made It, that was a pretty big song too.
Yeah.
I think that one will overshadow this a little bit. I think that's a damn shame. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong. But I think this deserves to be a classic album.
I agree.
I would love to see more of this. I think that for me personally, I would say that this would be an influential album. I'll be curious to see in, you know, few years as time goes on to see whether or not it holds up to other people.
I agree. I mean, I honestly, like, I mean, this was for, and then you said at the top of the show how this is like you're always fascinated to hear how people get into panic at different times, and this was my introduction to them. So this is my like full disclosure. I love this album. I think it's great from start to top. You know, we talked about it, of course, but I got to tell you, like, this is the album that got me excited for not only what came before, but what came after as well. Pray for the Wicked. I mean, High Hopes, Hey Look Ma, Made It, and let's not forget the first single, Stay Amen Saturday Night, did some decent airplay as well. Yeah, but it was not nowhere near the High Hopes, like charting at number 4 on the Hot 100 type of thing. Yeah. So
and staying in the Hot 100 for quite a while.
Yeah, and so this is just my personal belief, and this is just a side note as well. My belief personally is that the next Panic album, whatever comes of it, whether it be a jazz album, a metal album, whatever it comes, there is such a thirst since High Hopes came out, and it reached 1 billion streams on Spotify. We can't forget that. I found that out a little while ago. I'm like, what?
Like, I think it has more streams than I Write Sins Not Tragedies does.
It surpassed, and the music video surpassed it. So right now there's a frothing of the mouth for Panic anything. So I think my belief is, and it's just my gut feeling. I hope to God, Brendan, if you're listening to this, you release something in the next year or two. Or this year, it was still January of 2022. You could surprise us later this year or next year. But let's face it, if whatever he releases, it's going to chart high, in my opinion, because of the success of High Hopes and the success of because what High Hopes did and what this album did too is it got people into what came before that wasn't really so mainstream, which is what I loved, which brought people like me into the fold. Where when I was really young, 2005 was a long time ago. I don't remember I Write Sins Not Tragedies. If anything, the only thing I really remember from like 2005 was Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day. But that's another conversation for another time. But like, that's like I love this band because I got into this album. That's me. But everyone came in at different points, and I mean, I think we're all excited for the next one. So
yeah, I'm super excited for whatever they put out, and I find it very interesting how, and I'm wondering if this will happen with this album too, but I'm not quite sure. But when this album came out and kind of reinvigorated that love that a lot of people had for Panic at the Disco, that I feel like kind of got lost a little bit over the years.
Mm-hmm.
In the years after this, I've noticed more and more people going back to their earlier work, specifically Pretty Odd, which was pretty, panned by fans. Like, fans did really not like it. Most people didn't care for when it came out. I've always liked it because I just liked that style of music. But when it came out, I remember people did not like it. People are not happy. I mean, to this day, they'll only play 9 in the afternoon off of it.
Yep.
And even then, I believe sometimes they don't even play that. I mean, it had its anniversary a few years back, and the most he did was on stage just be like, "Oh, happy birthday, Pretty Odd." But I've seen quite a few people now go back and be like, "Wait a minute, this is a really good album." And I'll be like, "I've been saying this for years."
Yeah.
And I don't know if that'll happen with this album because everyone already reveres this as a great album.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to see what its impact will be, another 4 years down the line when this album turns, 10 or whatever.
Don't get me started. That's literally like what, 4 years
4
away?
years away. Yeah. Slightly less. Slightly less than 4 years away.
Yeah. This is just my 2 cents on Panic and as a band in general, whatnot. Because I saw them live. There was a lot of people like in their like late teen, like 18 plus year old audience. But I gotta say, there was a lot of like some older people as well. We talked about this, but there were some kids there as well because they heard High Hopes. They heard Hey Look Mine made it, and to some extent Stay Man Saturday Night, which I think is a great song. But I mean, I think that, like I said, I think that there's such I'm going to use that word again, the frothing of the mouth for anything Panic at this point, because they've been quiet. He has been quiet since 2019. So, and
when we say quiet, you hardly hear from the guy. Yeah, I mean, in this whole God, hard to believe we're coming up on 2 years of COVID stuff, but
yeah,
I honestly can't remember the last time I really heard from him.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Panic's Instagram posted something in like January of 2020, maybe, if that at all. And Brendan's Instagram as well has been quiet as well. I mean, I hope to God he's writing music, but
hey, I mean, maybe it's a good sign. Maybe it's a good sign. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope he's waiting for that I hope he's writing an album and then he's gonna shock the world, say, "Oh, by it's coming out tomorrow," or something like that. Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Can you do me a favor, actually?
Yeah.
Can you go to the Wikipedia page for Pray for the Wicked real quick?
Yes, hold on.
I just want to see what label that was released on.
Sure, give me 1 second. For those of you who are listening, you won't be able to do this, but that's okay. Pray for the label.
It was still on Fueled by Ramen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to me. Okay.
Yeah, just.
I think that they saw just a quick side note about Fueled by Ramen. They, in recent years, I've noticed that it seems like a lot of bands that get signed to them move away from their signature sound to a more pop sound. I mean, Panic has been on that for, forever now. So
Right.
I'm not too concerned with that. So I'm wondering if maybe the label saw the success of this album and then had bands switch up their sounds. But just conjecture. I was just curious.
Maybe. I mean, anything's possible, of course, but that's me. But I don't know. I just overall, I got to tell you, like, I think whatever comes next with Panic. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the songs right here, but I got to tell you, whatever comes next from them, I am ready. Let's just say that I'm ready. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these songs. Like, I remember all of these, but like some of them were just weird. King of the Clouds.
Yeah.
Or
looking back on that one, I'm not too into the album.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
It's
I mean,
good. The good songs are really good, and then there's a lot of weird filler.
Yeah, like Dancing's Not a Crime. Roaring 20s, anyone?
Roaring 20s was lame. I didn't like that. Roaring 20s was like, it sounded to me like he was trying to redo Crazy Equals Genius.
Almost, yeah.
And it didn't work.
Yeah, unfortunately. But again, he ended on a ballad of Dying in LA.
Yep.
So, but yeah. So I mean, overall, I mean that's. I mean, let me go back to Death of Bachelor. I mean, that's. Any other comments for Death of Bachelor, or that's it?
I think I pretty much covered everything I have to say about it. I'll throw one more thing.
Yeah.
Like we talked about last week with Van Halen. I appreciate that they know when to end an album, and this album's only 36 minutes long, and it's perfect. I couldn't imagine it any longer. They know when to not add filler songs, and I love that about them. And they know how to make a song just be straight and to the point. Like, at no point in any of the songs on Death of the Bachelor did I feel like, all right, let's get the song moving, let's get it over with.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think that bands need to really learn. And I think that we haven't had much of a problem with that in recent years, because now songs are getting shorter and shorter with the popularity of TikTok. So I'm hoping they keep this up with whatever comes next.
I hope so too. I really hope that they release their next album is like maybe like there's like a 5-minute song on there. Who knows?
As long as it's good. As long as it's good.
Yeah. So I mean, that's gonna really. I think, are we all set? I think that's it, right?
I mean, I've covered everything I need to say on it.
I overall, I'm one last thought. I want to say that this album, I think, because given that it was the album that got me into them, truth be told, I just in conclusion, really, Brendan Urie, if you're out there listening to this, we love you. We want to see you on tour, and we want to get VIP meet and greet packages as well. Just saying, for me, Kyle, his girlfriend, and my friend Izzy, and we'll all go together. Let's just put it that way. We're all gonna have a wonderful time. But yeah, I love this album. I think truthfully, it's a little bit like underappreciated in the modern, like it kind of overlooked, like you said, a little bit. But I think, hopefully as time goes on, people like us, could talk about it, and maybe someone will hear this podcast and say like, oh wait, like there was an album called Death of a Bachelor. What? And then they'll go back to it, and then they'll get hooked, hopefully.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for watching, listening, however you streamed us tonight. And as always, I want to thank Kyle for so much for joining and being a big factor of just like, this guy's he has a lot of knowledge of music. I applaud him a lot. He's a good guy.
Thank you.
Thank you for I'm coming on as always, Kyle. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of or whenever we do it again, for another episode of Career Retrospectives. And we're not sure the topic yet, but we'll figure that out when it comes. So just stay tuned. All right.
See you next time.
See you next.